This is lesson 82, algebraic simplifications, on page 339. And if you remember, in lesson 64, we did some problems like this, that we had to do some steps multiple times in order to simplify this, and obviously since we do not have an equal sign, all we can do is simplify it. We cannot solve it. And if you remember, one of the things that I taught you about these was that you start the furthest away, for the most part, from your big division sign right there. So we look at the numerator, and then we look at the denominator, and once we get both the top and the bottom simplified, then we combine the two fractions here and actually simplify the whole thing. So what we're going to do first of all is look at this particular denominator right there. So we have, let's ignore the rest of it, we have 1 plus 1 over x. So let's just write that right here. And if you remember, the 1 is really a 1 over 1, so we have two fractions, common denominators. We find out what's missing from both of them. What's missing down here is an x, so we put an x down here. What's missing here is nothing, because we had a 1 over here on the bottom, and since there's an implied 1 in front of the x, we leave it. So we get our 1 over x plus x over x. Since we multiplied by an x over here, this was a 1, remember, and we had a 1 up here. We multiply the bottom by the x, because that's what we're missing here, and we multiply the top by the x. So whatever you do on the bottom, you have to do on the top, so x over x. And we end up with x plus 1, because we combine these, over my denominator, x. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace this part here with x plus 1 over x. So now we have a plus 1 over x plus 1 over x. Okay? And again, we're going to look at this whole thing here, because at this point we've simplified the bottom and the top is just a 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine those. And if you remember, we take our denominator, flip it upside down, and multiply it. So let's leave our a plus 1 here, and we invert multiply. We take our bottom and we flip it upside down, and we multiply. So we end up having, let's come down here, we end up having then a plus so we end up having a plus x over x plus 1. Okay? So now at this point we can combine this whole thing here. Now again, in order to combine that, we have to find common denominators. So this is actually an a over 1, and we're missing from this denominator here a whole x plus 1. Now remember, just because we've got a 1 here and we've got a 1 here doesn't mean we're just missing the x. Because of that plus sign, these two numbers, or variable and the number, are locked together. So we can't just say that we're short an x. We're short the entire x plus 1. So that means we multiply the top and bottom here by x plus 1. So a times x plus 1 over x plus 1 plus what we have right here, x over x plus 1. Okay, so we end up with that big old Herkin mess. But now, because we have common denominators, we're a long way. So we can just combine everything. So I'm going to distribute my a and get a x plus 1a, or just a, plus x over x plus 1, and I'm happy with that answer. Okay, so that was back in lesson 64. What we're going to do is continue with that same idea, only we're going to do some that are a little bit more complicated since you guys are so smart. So we're going to simplify one, and I'm doing the example on page 340, example 82.1 if you're interested. I've got A. I've got a long division sign because I'm going to put a lot under there. 1 plus A over 1 plus 1 over X. Okay, so I've got quite a bit there. So again, we're going to start pretty much works almost all the time the furthest away from this long division sign here. So we're going to start here and simplify that first, and then we're going to put it together with this and simplify it. Then we're going to add to this, and then we're going to do the division. Okay, so let's start with here. Alright, we already did that once. So when we add 1 plus 1 over X, we end up with, let's go ahead and put everything together as we're going here. 1 plus A over X plus 1 over X. Okay, so this here is what we get when we combine those terms, because this ends up being X over X plus 1 over X equals X plus 1 over X, and that is where that came from. Okay, so now we've simplified it a little bit. Now we have this here that we're going to combine, and again all we have to do is flip things upside down and multiply. So we have 1 plus A times, we're going to take that upside down, X over X plus 1. Okay, end up with that big old hurkin' thing. So let's combine. So let's just bring that whole thing down here. A over 1 plus A X over X plus 1. Okay, so now we have to look at a different color here. We have to look at this part. Okay, so we're going to combine those. So our 1 is actually a 1 over 1. So what we're missing from the left hand side is an X plus 1. So we multiply top and bottom. Let's do it over here. By X plus 1, 1 times X plus 1 over 1 times X plus 1. And then we'll leave the right hand side alone. Okay, so we end up with X plus 1 over X plus 1 plus AX over X plus 1, which gives me, let's put all this under A, don't want to forget to drag that A along, which gives me A over X plus 1 plus AX over X plus 1. Okay, haven't really done anything new, haven't really done anything weird. All I'm doing is stuff that we've done in the past, only multiple times. So now we've simplified everything on the bottom, everything on the top. So now we're going to bring the top and the bottom together. So we're going to invert the bottom and multiply it times A. So A times X plus 1 over, let's put parentheses there, over X plus 1 plus AX. Okay, not a real happy looking kind of an answer, but that ends up being as much as we can do, because all we did is took this thing here, flipped it upside down, so the X plus 1 is now being multiplied by the A, and this these three terms here go in the denominator. And that's really all we can do. There's not a whole lot left. Okay? So let's do one more from the examples in the book. Kind of clean page here. This is number 6 on page 341. So this is one of your homework problems, so it would be probably pretty smart to write this one down. 2 plus m over 2 plus 2 over p. Okay. Okay, so again, number 6 on page 341, problem set 82. We're going to look at this part first. Again, the furthest away from that long division sign. So we're going to combine those terms. So I'm going to look at the 2 plus 2 over p and realize that this 2 is the same as 2 over 1. And what am I missing here? I'm missing a p. So I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by p. And get that, which now that I have common denominators, I get 2p plus 2 over p. Okay. And now I'm going to take this, since that's simplified, and instead of putting what I have in green there, I'm going to replace it with this, since that's what I simplified. So let me write everything out here again. I know this gets really old, me being anal and thinking I have to rewrite everything. So I'm going to put 2p plus 2 over p there. So I simplified this and came up with this. Now I'm going to look at this part and simplify that now, because again I've got a fraction on the bottom. In order to divide here, m divided by this, I'm going to take this bottom, flip it upside down, and multiply it by m. So I'm going to rewrite the whole stinking thing again, and now I'm going to take my m and multiply it by the inverse, times p over 2p plus 2. Okay, in parentheses. Sorry, I'm left-handed. I sit there and put my hand over half of my work. Hopefully, by me talking, that's going to clear things up for you. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to combine these. So let's go over here, m over, I'm just going to multiply the m times this p here. M p over 2p plus 2. Okay, so it didn't really do anything except distributed that m. Now I'm going to combine this 2 with this here. So what am I missing over here? I'm missing this whole thing there. So I'm going to multiply the bottom by 2p plus 2 and the top by 2p plus 2. Okay? Which means that I have to distribute this 2 here times this. So I get m over, I'm going to distribute this 2, so I get 4 plus 4p over 2p plus 2 plus m p over 2p plus 2. Okay, now I can combine this and this. Let's see if I can write with my hand down below. I don't know if you'll be able to read it if I do. M over, now we're going to combine these here. So 4 plus 4p plus mp over 2p plus 2. Sorry. Yeah, my writing isn't very good when I'm doing that. Okay, so again, I've got to divide this. This is my denominator. This is my division line. Okay, so this is going to flip upside down. So let's put that right here. M times flip that up, I've got a 2p plus 2. And that's going to be over 4 plus 4p plus mp. So that ends up being my final answer there for you. So, happy days. Alright, so that's it for lesson 82, and you're going to have to click on another YouTube video to see lesson 83.